Hey, hey, I remembered the intro this time. I think I figured it out. I hope. Fingers crossed. So we are going to get back into mixing some AfterWinter today. We're going to be picking up where we left off on that first song, Poison in the Well. Hopefully everything is working because I have changed a few things. I've got the mic today, which should hopefully be a little bit better quality and also a similar volume to the music. Now, I've been trying to mess with this with the mic and getting everything to work and getting everything to flow the way that it's supposed to. If I solo something and forget to solo this mic, it's going to cut out. If I have to switch tracks, it's going to cut out. So there's some things I need to remember about using the mic, but for now, I think we're good. Please do let me know if something is not working. So that's good to know. If I'm saying a whole bunch of stuff and you're seeing my mouth move but not hearing me talk, that would be, not good. So let's go ahead and switch over to the Logic screen. There we go. And I want to be able to see this over here so that we can hopefully check out to see if anybody's watching. Please do remember to let me know if you're here. I'd like to interact. I mean, if we're doing this live, we might as well have some interaction. Okay, so last time we did a whole bunch of stuff with this. We got our context mix. We separated everything into groups. We got all the routing figured out. And then we got everything, all of our groups at that peak level of -7. I will figure out how to talk at some point. Oh, yes, Sammy Hagar is here. Good. Yes. So yes, we got all of our groups, got those peak levels of the groups up to -7 where they should be so that we can continue, and then we started making the bass drum sound the way we want to. So we're going to be continuing on from there. Our next step is getting the snare to sound the way we want. I'm going to get rid of this, this right here. There we go. I am also now going to be able to use my actual speakers rather than the headphones, which I much prefer. This mic seems not to pick up too much bleed. I've been recording some videos for some other people. I've been recording using this setup with the mic and the speakers, and it seems to be good. The quality seems to be totally fine, so hopefully it will continue to be that way. Okay, so one small change that I made since that was not on stream, and this is pretty small, because I knew I was going to be able to start doing this on the speakers instead of the headphones. I did go ahead and listen to the whole thing out the speakers and make sure that there wasn't anything that I wanted to change, and I did end up turning the bass drum down. I think I turned the vocals down a little bit too. So there was just a couple of really small level changes that I made based on the speakers rather than in the headphones, which is important for that context moving forward. Now, theoretically, we are going to be hitting a step here pretty soon where we are going to normalize things so that it shouldn't sound different from system to system, or at least it shouldn't sound very different from system to system. So eventually we're going to be going through and doing some EQ stuff that is going to make it so that it wouldn't matter really if I'm hearing on the speakers or the headphones. It should sound basically about the same. But for now, since we're not to that step yet, the context is important. So the speakers, the mix sounds good here on the speakers. Okay, so our snare drum. Snare drum is right here. It's our second channel. Currently, we have a compressor and 2 EQs on it, and honestly, it does sound pretty good. Like, I wouldn't be really mad if this were the snare sound for the album. So we're going to keep that in mind, that I can recall this exact setup from the tracking project if we need to come back to this, if what we're doing with the other stuff isn't working. And we just can't get a really good sound out of it, we can come back to this. So let's go ahead and start by getting rid of this. Now that I've sung its praises for a minute, we're going to delete the compressor and both EQs, and we're going to start off with... Oh, right, I was going to say virtual mix rack, but let's try those telos. Let's try the telos things on the snare. Why not? We might as well. And then also, we're going to get an EQ here that is just going to eliminate low-end frequencies under the fundamental, which is usually right around 200. That's like the main frequency the snare is taking up, usually, not for every snare, but on this snare that seems to be hanging around 200. So we want to get rid of any frequencies below that. So first off, let's hear a snare hit so that we can see that. Yeah. So you can see that we were hitting right about 200 there, so we bring that high pass right up underneath it, so we get rid of all of that low-end information there. Also, the snare sounds pretty goofy now that we've taken the other plugins off of it. Okay, so we're going to switch Telos into snare top mode. We probably don't even need to do that because surely these presets we'll check out would do that by itself. So we've got a couple of snare top things we want to look at, snare top and snare top intense. And then we'll take a look through all these folders too. Worth mentioning, we don't have a snare bottom. This is not like a channel that is summed with a snare top and a snare bottom. I tried recording snare bottom on Paramnesia. I've tried recording snare bottom so many times I couldn't even tell you how many, and I either don't use it or it's in the mix so little that it doesn't matter. I'm sure that it's something I'm not doing right because most people seem to record a snare bottom and use it. I don't like what it does in the context of my mix, so I didn't record one this time. So hopefully that's not going to greatly offend anybody's great ancestors or anything, but just a mic on the top of the snare this time. So let's take a listen to this preset and kind of see what we think. Let's see, we should probably loop something. We looped the chorus last time. Let's loop this first verse. The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured. They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life. They think they'll come to God despite all the things you put them through. They don't think of God. They remember you. It's not easy to admit. The world sees great through us and they rejected it. The voice of the fanatics has changed what they perceive. The truth that you preach is not what they're willing to believe. The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured. They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life. They think they'll come to God despite all the things you put them through. They don't think of God. They remember you. It's not easy to admit. Okay, that one right there I don't mind. Now it is it's way loud. This has turned the snare up super loud. So we do need to get it back down. We need a level match here. But let's see if we level match, what does it sound like? That's interesting that that's hitting 4. Oh, right, because we've taken our other effects off. That's why it's hitting 4. Okay, so if we want this to match the level that we were getting with the previous effects, we need to put this at -7 regardless of where it's hitting with no effects on it. Yeah, that makes sense. There we go. So now we've got that at -7. So let's see what it sounds like in the context of everything now.
The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life if they still come to God despite all the things you put them through. They don't think of God. They remember you.
It's not easy to admit. The world sees straight through us and they reject it. The voice of the fanatics has changed what they perceive. The truth that you preach is not what they're willing to believe. The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's
Another thing that I should point out to keep in mind here is that this is, at the moment, only affecting that backbeat snare channel. So just the main single hits here. So if the fills sound different, that's why. The fills are on a different channel. We haven't got to that yet. I do like where this is going. I do think the telos is kind of come through on this. Just getting it to sit in there right. I want it to have some deep low-end punch, but I don't want it to take up too much of that area where other low-end stuff needs to be sitting. Let's try putting our snare reverb on it, too, and kind of see where that puts it.
The world gets darker every day. We claim we're making progress. We're moving backwards. We used to like the darkness, but the world looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly.
Okay, let's work with that for now. We may still change some stuff about that later. There is, when we get to the parallel compression on the drums, that is going to pretty crazily change how the snare and the snare reverb affect everything else. So we may need to come back once that's done. But until then, let's go ahead and copy these settings over to the snare fills and the groove snare, with one exception. We're going to use another one of those Black Salt audio plugins on both of these. If the computer will function. There we go. Okay. We're going to put on another plugin from them, which I believe is called Silencer. Yes, now this is a gate. This is kind of like a special gate that they've created here, which is kind of like superpowers for snare gates. This right here may change the way that I process drums for future albums, because this thing seems to really grab a hold of what you want and get rid of everything else, which is nice. So right now, we've got some other snare top things that we can look at, presets for gating out cymbals and other things that are going on. We're just going to kind of take a look and see what we see. I haven't used this yet enough to know which ones I'm partial to. So let's kind of take a look here. By the way, this is targeting the snare fills channel.
World looks to a new light.
Okay, well, the very first hit was too quiet for it to hear.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life if they still come to God despite.
Okay, well, I think it's taking a little bit too much of the channel out. So let's change the preset and see something different.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew.
Okay, I'm starting to wonder now if this is actually necessary, because we seem to be struggling to get this where we want it. It doesn't sound anything like the backbeat snare, which is not what we want, obviously. It is the same thing as the backbeat snare. It was literally taken from the same performance.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly.
Okay.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking.
Okay, yeah. If we're changing the sound too much, then this is not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That might just be something that I need to be experimenting with in the drum processing phase rather than the mixing phase. What we do want to go ahead and try is what I normally do here as far as gating the snare fills and the groove snare. We can gate them a little bit differently. The backbeat snare has already been multi-band gated, and there's not really any reason to do anything further to that. We do want to noise gate these other things a little bit. So let's just stick a gate with the drums in here on our virtual mix rack, and we can kind of check and make sure that this isn't changing the sound too much on our verse.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't.
Well, that's yuck. That didn't work at all.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
Yeah, wow, these are changing these like pretty drastically.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't.
We might just want to not gate this stuff, maybe.
They won't listen to.
Yeah, it's changing everything so much. Okay, if we just don't have a gate on it, what does it sound like?
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life.
Okay. Even more interesting discovery here. Even with that gate turned off, it sounds pretty drastically different than the backbeat snare. And I'm not sure why it would. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. It's the same drum with the same mic from the same performance with the same settings. Why would it sound different? Mm-hmm.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life. They think they'll come to God despite all the things you put.
Manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a person's life. They think they'll come to God despite all the things you put. They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense.
Yeah, I think we got it there. So apparently the lesson here is that telos pretty drastically affects drums differently depending on how hard they were hit. And since some of these snare fills were not coming through as loud as the backbeats, the compressor over here wasn't hitting it as hard, which was allowing the high end to come through quite a bit more. So it just made it sound weird. Well, that explains then why the gate, I thought the gate was making it sound weird. It wasn't. It was the telos thing that was making it sound weird. Interesting. So we should probably check that for the groove snare too, although I'm not sure how much groove snare is actually in this. Not a bunch. So remember, groove snare is kind of like ghost notes, essentially.
We are called to bolster.
Yeah, so we just heard a couple of them there. There was like the real quiet multiple bounce rolls there, is what this track has.
We are called to bolster resistance. The world looks to us, but what we show is our weakness.
I do like how well those are cutting through the mix. You can really clearly hear those, which is nice. That's ghost notes on the snare in a really dense metal mix is one of the first things that just gets lost, and there's not a good way to bring them back without it sounding unnatural. So I will say that. This is taking those and kind of keeping them where they should be at least. Okay, we're going to work with that for now. Our next step, we are going to put the snare fills channel back at a decibel under the backbeat snares. We need to make sure that that doesn't sound weird in any spots, but more importantly, we need to make sure that the snare fills, because it is dynamic, or meaning that it's not the same volume every time he hits it, we need to make sure that it never jumps above 7. Excuse me, -7. So we're going to go through the entire song, hit by hit, on those snare fills, and make sure that there is never a hit that goes above -7. Interestingly, I do think I'm going to put this back down at 2. It actually kind of sounds better that way.
Guardians of his word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see.
Ooh. Computer, if you weren't being so slow, that wouldn't have happened. There we go.
Guardians of his word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within his house they dwell. Our message hated, the water's tainted. There's poison in the well.
I'm hearing ones that we're probably going to want to turn up later on in the mix, but nothing's jumping up to 7.
World looks to a new light. It's manufactured.
They won't listen to you. There's a reason they withdrew. You stopped making sense. Started constantly taking offense. You can't hate a
We had one that went up to 8.7, but still, we're good.
despite all the things you put them through. They don't think of God.
Yep, doing good so far.
Rejected it. The voice of the fanatics has changed what they perceive. The truth that you preach is not what they're willing to believe.
All right, well, there will be the first time that I've forgotten to solo this mic. So let's try the silencer again. Now that we know it wasn't the silencer that was making things sound weird, because there's a lot of bleed on the China cymbal right there, and it was enough that I heard a difference in the China sound in the full mix, which obviously we don't want. So let's try this snare top cleaner and just see. So it's definitely helped. It's also not doing a lot of really good things for the sound of the snare. Just kind of see what these other presets sound like. That heavy bleed one might be the best. As opposed to... Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, that really kills the high end, doesn't it? Oof. Yuck. Ooh, yuck. Ooh, all right. There might not be a whole lot we can do about that.
Is not what they're willing to believe.
Yeah, that is not an option at all. That sounds terrible. Okay, so what if we go back to the old way? This is what I would have done if I had affected the whole thing. Oh, Majennica asked if I posted about it this time. Yes, I did. Yes, I remember to do that this time. Sorry I didn't notice when that comment jumped up, so sorry if it's been a minute since you asked that.
It's not what they're willing to believe. It's not what they're willing to believe.
Man, I was pretty happy with how the snare sound was sounding with that telos, but the rest of this process isn't going well. We might have to just give up on that telos thing.
It's not what they're willing to believe.
Nope.
It's not what they're willing to believe.
No.
It's not what they're willing to believe. It's not what they're willing to believe.
Yeah, you can really hear that China.
It's not what they're willing to believe. Guardians of his word.
Okay, that one seems to be the one that's working the best. That's just that's wild. Okay, anyway, we're still not hitting 7, so we're doing good there.
The world looks to us, but what we show is our weakness. Temptations of glory have blinded many. Within his house they dwell. Ministry negated, the water
the gate is killing some of these other little hits here. Let me just turn the gate off and see if I'm right about that.
Temptation.
Yeah, a little bit. Not as much as I was thinking it was.
Temptations of glory have blinded many. Within his house they dwell. Ministry negated, the water's tainted. There's poison in the well.
I just activated some weird thing. I reached down to hit stop and I hit like 20 buttons on the keyboard. I don't know what I did just there. Again, it almost felt like some of this was getting gated out. Okay. No, it isn't.
The water's tainted. There's poison in the well.
We fail to show the answer. They're driven to search elsewhere. We need to reach them. We're the ones at fault here. We should try harder to understand what will speak to them.
We don't have that much time. Should have stopped and actually read the signs. We've been getting further away. Convoluting the message we convey. We can't annoy them into belief. Can't berate them until they agree. Why can't we see the clues? They won't think of God. They'll remember you.
You're not following command. You shout a verse and hope they'll understand. The threat of a consequence they don't believe exists won't change any minds. Your words have been dismissed.
Okay. Yeah. I like the backbeat snare. Eli says he likes it. Yeah, no, I agree. I like the backbeat snare. What it's doing to the snare fills is just not, I don't know, it's not sitting right. It feels like they're weaker. You know, with the just the regular old Logic normal effects, I feel like I was hearing them the way I wanted to, and they sounded exactly like the backbeat snare, as they should. And here it's like they're way weaker. It's like something changed and it's not sitting right. I don't know. I'm still not convinced.
The time has come for us to make amends. Show the world how to believe again.
Those snares seemed fine. So I don't know. We'll keep it for now. The other handy thing is that we never even approached -7 on any of these hits. So I don't know if that's Telos or if that's just this song is somehow different than all of the other ones I've mixed recently. Yeah. It's interesting. We'll work with it for now. Again, the snare sound along with the reverb will pretty drastically change when we introduce the parallel compression, which we're coming up to. We'll almost definitely get to that today as long as I don't screw around too much on the way there. Okay, our toms. Now, this is another thing that I have a process for that I've done the same for the last, a pretty long time here that I like, but I'm going to give that Telos thing one last chance. That everything that I've seen online of people using it sounded pretty good. It just doesn't seem to be working for me right at the moment. So we'll see. Again, and I want to make it clear here too that it's probably, if something's wrong with it, it's probably something I'm doing wrong. You know what I mean? These are professionals who've been doing this for a living a lot longer than I have, who are designing these things. So, you know, if there is something weird about it, it's certainly not me criticizing the job they did. Okay, so for Tom 1, we've got our telos here. There is a rack tom setting. We are going to put an EQ after it again that's going to get rid of low information underneath the fundamental frequency of the tom. So first off, we want to see what that is. What is the fundamental frequency of tom 1? I'd like to hear just one nice clean hit. Looks like most of the time that Eli hit this one, it was some sort of roll or something. Maybe this one right here is... Okay, yeah. It wasn't one, but it was close enough we can see what it should be. Okay. Now I also pretty typically on that EQ right there will put a little high-end boost for the attack of the stick, but maybe with this telos thing it won't be necessary. Okay, so it looks like we've only got one preset here called rack tom, and then okay, we've got some other rack tom presets in... Yeah, we've got some other presets here in the folders that we can check out. Looks like just about everybody has at least one rack tom preset we can check out. Okay, so we need to find a spot where he's hitting this drum a lot and just loop that. This spot, whatever it is, has a lot of fills in it and a lot of rack tom 1, so let's do that. Okay, now keep in mind, tier 2, we are only affecting rack tom 1. So the rest of the rack toms and the floor tom are going to sound like they have always so far. Those were all total garbage. Oh, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're on the rack tom preset. Let's just kind of work our way around here and see what we get. I can live with that, but it's just not beating what I normally do. So let's just do that. All right, in Virtual Mix Rack here, there is a toms preset called Toms Aggro, which just seems to work pretty well across all the toms. So that's... With that seems to get me where I need to go most of the time. So we get the channel EQ here with the high pass getting rid of anything underneath the fundamental frequency, and then a thin little boost here at 3 decibels for some extra attack. Usually with these, that's not always necessary, and we may need to do other stuff here too. I do want to go ahead and level match, so I want to turn this off here real fast and just see that very first hit where we've got it looped. What is the peak level there? Okay, 6.8. And with this on, it's at 3.3. Yeah, we've definitely got a little bit too much high end with this preset as well. What did I say it was without it? I think 6.8 is right. Let's take that high end down just a hair. Maybe even this doesn't need to be so high at all either. Yeah, so even without our little extra boost here, that one was already sitting okay. Yeah. And then let's target our fundamental here and give that a boost in this case. Might even try a little cut right after the fundamental, which is usually where some like boxy stuff is. Okay, yep, good with that. Take a look at Rack Tom 2. So we're going to start off with the same preset. I'm going to reset the preset. And then we want to get a channel EQ. Let's set this channel EQ up for all of them. We'll just get it ready for all of them to be on there because we use it every time. There we go. Okay, so let's see what our fundamental for Rack Tom 2 is. Okay, got that. Let's go ahead and set ourselves up with that 3 decibel boost there. We do usually use that. Right. See what's our peak level. 14. And then with this, we're hitting 11.6. So let's take this down 2.5, and that ought to get us about 14. Yep. See what else we might need to do EQ-wise here. Yeah, I think we could use another, the fundamental could use a little bit of a boost again, and then see if we can cut some box without losing power. Yep, okay, good with that. Go ahead and get Virtual Mix Rack on this one. Tom's aggro there. See where the fundamental is. Said that really weird for some reason. Okay, and then our peak level for this tom. 14.6. Only 14.2 with this on. I think we'll leave that. That's close enough that it's not a big deal. Let's go ahead and take a look here. We could probably use a little bit of a fundamental boost here as well. You know, honestly, without the fundamental boost, it's still about the same as the others. Let's see if we need that boxy cut. Okay, yeah, I think I'm good with all that as is. And then we will take a look at the floor tom 2, or floor tom 1 in this case, I guess. Get our Tom's aggro on there. See where our fundamental is. Okay, see what our peak level is. Okay, 12.6. Only 12.3 with this on. I think we can live with that as is. Now this particular drum, we do usually end up doing that boxiness cut. Fundamental's probably fine. Before I forget, on floor toms, now floor tom 1, this usually isn't super important, but we do usually do a 3 decibel cut right at 70 on floor toms, again, just so that we're keeping them out of the way of the bass drum and the bass guitar. So the bass drum is at 60, the bass guitar is at 80. If we cut right at 70, then that lowers the toms enough that they can kind of not impede that space. Yep. Okay. I think we're good right there. Let's go ahead and get our Tom's reverb set in a spot for now. Okay, we're good on that. Now looking at the Tom's Master, we have some stuff that we want to do to the Tom's Master to kind of help us make sure that toms aren't jumping out at us when we don't want them to. So times when he's hit more than one drum, or if he's hitting several toms pretty close together, those frequencies start to build up. So we're going to do two things here. We have a multipressor to catch frequency buildup, and we'll go ahead and use all 4 ranges on this, and we're going to do this the same way we've been doing that other stuff, as far as we want to see these meters jumping just a little bit on a regular hit, and then when we're hitting lots of them together, they're jumping a little bit more. Now, because of this section that we've soloed is pretty tom heavy, it's a good section to do this with. We do want to see those meters jumping that kind of like medium range here, since a lot of these are multiple tom hits in a row where we might have the potential for those frequencies to be building up. Yes, I think we're good there. And then we're also going to do a regular compressor, just so that if he hits 2 toms at the same time together, we have a better chance of catching the level of those and bringing them down so that they don't jump out of the mix way louder than everything else does. For this, we will use the Get Good Smash and Grab here. So this is a Nealeigh thing right here. This is a preset that he created specifically for drums here, and we've got a toms preset. One of the cool things about this is we have 2 different versions of this. There's a smash version and a grab version, and we're going to test both and see which one we like better. So I've set it to toms mode. I'm going to set us to 25% saturation, which just kind of helps smooth over those high-end frequencies so that they're not quite so stabby in the ear. And then we're going to pull the threshold down until we're hitting somewhere between 1 and 3. We're not looking to compress this real hard. We're just trying to catch tom hits that are extra hard or times when he hit more than 1 drum. Okay, so there's our smash version. Let's turn over to the B and do a grab version, and then we can hit A and B back and forth and see which one sounds better. We'll do the same thing, 25% saturation, toms mode. We're going to pull that threshold down until we're hitting about 3 or so. I think we're where we want to be. Now, I can already tell you, I think just based on doing those two, that I prefer the grab version, but let's test them back and forth. In this case, the smash version would be good for getting a little bit more of the note in the toms rather than the hit. The grab version gives us a little bit more of that transient. It gives us a little bit more attack. And at least based on this little section we're hearing, seems like the grab version was kind of doing something a little better for it, but we'll listen to them back and forth here. So in case it's kind of hard to see, when it's blue, it's smash. When it's red, it's grab. Yeah, I think I prefer the grab version. Might sound a little bit different on other people's systems or anything, but the grab version seems to make them a little bit more present. We can really tell that he's hitting those. It really highlights the hits a little bit better, at least for me. Let's go ahead and level match this too. I almost forgot to do that. Okay, you should still be hearing me, I hope. I had to solo something, so I want to make sure that my mic is still coming through. Yes, okay, good. I think they are a little quiet when the plug-in's on. Nice, yeah. Yes. Okay, so I think we're good on the toms for now. That should be good. For the overheads, now, usually I do this step before now. I did not realize that I had forgotten to do this. I've started affecting overhead channels a little bit differently recently. As you can see, we have 8 here that we talked about last time. Normally there's only 4. The extra 4 are just for beefing up a couple of the cymbal hits that either just weren't loud enough in the mix or maybe were partially like missed or something. So normally there's only 4. Right now we have 8. We have 2 that are hard left and 2 that are hard right, mixed drummer's perspective instead of audience perspective. I just kind of prefer drummer's perspective personally. I have been not doing them hard left and hard right recently. So we're kind of letting the rhythm guitars take up that space now, the all the way left and the all the way right, and we're bringing the cymbals in, not a lot, just a little bit, so we're taking them to, -55 instead of -64. So I'm not sure what that number system is that Logic uses. It's certainly not a percent. It's certainly not even anywhere near 50%, even though the number is 50. It's still mostly left and mostly right. But bringing them in just a little bit allows the guitars to get a little bit wider and take up that space. I've also got some different EQs that I want to bring in. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this, and we'll bring in our other EQs here. Our hi-hat that we use, and Eli can correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think it's a Zildjian hat. We have 2 different hi-hats. There's the hi-hat and the quote-unquote X-hat. The X-hat, I think, is Sabian, but the hi-hat is Zildjian. Those Zildjian cymbals are really, really thick, so they're super aggressive. And so we usually end up having to tame that hi-hat a little bit so that it's not just smashing you in the ear over and over. So let me grab... Yeah, we'll grab the tracks from this mix right here. Should have those reverbs on it. Or not reverbs, those EQs on it. Okay, so we just brought in the channels from a different mix that have those EQs. Yes. We can get rid of our EQs that we've been using. All of those can go. And we've got, for our hi-hat mic, work with me here, computer, which we need 2 instances of, that one and that one. As you can see, we are cutting clear up to 650. That's a high pass, so we're getting rid of all the low-end information. I want my overheads to be pretty much cymbals and a drum attack. I don't want to hear the full body of the overhead. So I know there are a lot of drummers or mix engineers who prefer to get most of the drum sound from the overheads and then use the close mics to kind of beef up the main sound. I'd rather have the main sound be the close mics and the overheads be mostly cymbals. So we're getting rid of everything under 650. And then on the hi-hat mic, we're also low passing up here to try and get rid of some of that smashy, painful hi-hat. Majennica says getting smashed in the ear over and over is the only way to listen to cymbals. I like it. Then we've also got a ride cymbal EQ here. Now this looks like it's pretty much what we had on there already. High passing up to 600. Let's go ahead and make that 650. Oh, I remember why that one is 650 instead of 600. Because there was a little bit more low end in the hi-hat mic. So we should be able to leave this at 600 and nothing else. Then for our 2 overheads, the EQs are the same. Let me go ahead and get those copy-pasted where they need to go. High passing to 600 and giving us a little bit of top end up here above 7,500, 2 decibel boost up there on a high shelf, just giving us a little bit more shimmer and brilliance in the cymbals. Means that we don't necessarily have to push those channels so loud to still get what we want out of them. Hopefully this means we won't have to rebalance those channels, because like I said, I usually do that before we do the context mix, but I thought those channels were already like that. So apparently I didn't look close enough. Okay, so now that we've affected those differently, let's turn off our cycle. I don't know about you guys, I'm tired of hearing that same section over and over. And let's take a listen and just make sure that we haven't unbalanced our overheads by changing those EQs and the pan.
Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, so then on our overhead master, we want some compression, kind of for the same reason as the toms. We're going to use Nealeigh's smash and grab again. We're going to do that same process too. So we're going to switch our channel here to the overhead version. Get rid of this auto gain. This time we're going to saturate by 50%. Again, trying to get rid of the stabby cymbals there. So rounding those sharp high-end transients off. And we're going to pull that threshold down to about -3 on the average. Because again, we're not trying to compress the absolute crap out of these overheads. We're just trying to even them out a little bit so that there aren't any particular cymbal hits that are jumping out the mix at you. Ooh, I seem to have a text. Let's check out what this text is to make sure that it's not something important. Ah, it is a cancellation of a student tonight. Okay. Unfortunately, that's not going to help us extend this stream. But we're still going to go clear up till 6 here, so we got a good amount of time. Okay, so let me go ahead and get playing on this. We're going to pull that threshold down to about -3 or so. Then we're going to switch over to grab mode, set it all up the same, see which one sounds better.
But what they see is indifference. Temptations of power have blinded many. Within His house they dwell. Our message hated, the waters tainted. There's poison in the well. The waters take. Guardians of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us. Purpose. The world looks.
I was kind of focusing on that little fill that he did there with the splash cymbal, because it seems to sound about the same when we're just doing the crash ride over and over, regardless of whether we're in smash or grab. But that splash cymbal That little fill right there, that splash cymbal sounded pretty different, or at least I think it did, between the two versions. Let's check that out again. Okay, and okay, maybe not quite as different as I thought initially, but I'm kind of preferring the smash sound on that. They're similar enough that I don't think it matters that much. Kind of feeling like that splash jumps out a little bit better on the smash version. Let's level match here. What do I have soloed? Is it just my mic? It appears to be. Okay, I think we got that matched. Pretty good proof right there, again, that these are acoustic drums and not samples. I mean, that sounds exactly like it sounded in the room right there. Okay, we got that.
Of His word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they...
And our drums are sounding pretty good. Awesome. Okay, but we are not done. We now have what is potentially the secret sauce of the drums, which is parallel compression. So we have this drums crush bus, which I created last time and then turned off. We're going to go ahead and turn that up a little bit right now. We are going to solo it. There we go. So you should still be hearing this mic. Plus we're going to be hearing the drums crush. I'm going to like nervously check to make sure. Yes. And we are going to put another instance of Virtual Mix Rack up here on this, and this is all that's going to be on it. So I've been doing dual mono on this recently, and I don't think we necessarily need to. Yeah, let's just do this. There are two presets that I like on this, and really what I want you guys to focus on when we're listening to this is particularly what this is doing to the snare. Because I won't lie to you guys, parallel compression for drums sounds bad until you mix it underneath. It is a naturally... oh, yeah, the console is new since I last watched. That is beautiful. Thanks, Cody. Yeah, absolutely. The camera mic is new, and all of this stuff is... this I've had for a long time, but I just recently found out a way to integrate it better. I have another one over here that's just out of camera shot that was expensive and does not work. I've replaced it 3 times, still doesn't work. So here it sits. Anyway, Drum Crush. We've got Drum Crusher 1 and Drum Crusher 2. And this is gonna sound kind of bad because we are taking that everything that's in the drums and smashing it together to be kind of one consistent flat sound, which on its own sounds terrible. Mixed in underneath the uncompressed signal sounds pretty cool. So how we know which of these presets is better depends on how we want our snare to sound, and therefore we want to pay special attention to how these two presets affect the snare sound particularly. Pick the one we like better. We're going to need to adjust how much of each thing is coming into this send. In fact, something I know that we can do right off the bat is that the overhead mics are always way too loud in this. We're going to turn those down to almost nothing going into this. We usually end up turning everything except for the snare and the snare reverb down pretty far. Okay. So let's check it out. This is the parallel compression here. Either of them are good options. I'm going to roll with one for the moment, but they are strange. You know what I mean? Very strange there. I think we are still getting a little bit too much, too much bass drum and toms here. Yeah, Cody says that snare is fat on one. I agree. Yeah, definitely agree. I think that's where we're rolling, at least for the moment. So now that we've gotten that about where we want it, we've chosen the preset, pretty sure is going to work. We've adjusted how much of each of those channels is going to that send. In the first place, we do want it to be mostly snare. We are going to take that, the drum crush channel, and bring it all the way down again. We're going to start the whole mix again, so we're hearing the whole song. And we're going to slowly bring this slider up until we've got an appropriate amount of it on the drums. And remember, we're looking here to get those drums to be kind of punchy and exciting. They're going to jump a little bit more. They're also going to become too loud in the mix, which is something that we're going to have to fix here in a second. But let's go ahead and get that in.
Of his word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power.
Boy, that pretty drastically changed the amount of tom reverb that we're hearing. Holy crap, we need to turn that down. Also highlighted some cymbal bleed on the snare fills, or maybe the groove snare, that are still, I'm going to say probably the groove snare, that are jumping out and kind of making everything sound bad. So that's something that we're going to want to target. Let's go ahead and put the same gate on the groove snare that's on the snare fills and see if that fixes that problem. Pretty good with what we were hearing as a whole. On this, I'm going to mute that channel and bring it back in on and off so you guys can hear really the difference of what that's doing.
Guardians of his word, we are called to strengthen our purpose. The world looks to us, but what they see is indifference. Temptations of power.
Yeah. I hope that comes through on whatever systems you guys might be watching this on. That's a pretty big difference, right? Having that on there. The drums sounded pretty good before. It sounded good without it, right? I would have been satisfied with moving on without that. But as soon as that's in, when you're muting it and bringing it in and out, suddenly it's like, oh my gosh, I can't live without that in there. It sounds like flat and kind of boring without it almost. Okay. Now, there's some other issues that we're going to need to address there really fast. The main thing is the reverb values, right? This really accentuates the snare reverb and the tom reverb, so we need to readjust those channels before we move on. And then we need to play the whole song again so that we can get the level on the drums master. That does still need to be no higher than -7 before we move on. And now that we've got everything in, including the drums crush, we can actually make sure that that is -7 and then rebalance. So this is probably nearing the end of what I'll be able to do on stream tonight before I need to go for more students. I got about 15 minutes, and playing the song is going to take up a good portion of that. So let's get our reverb values fixed here real fast. let's roll with that for now. Pretty good with that. Okay, song play from start to finish so that we can check to see what our peak level is. Right now it's at -4, which is quite a bit above where we need to be. So however much this peaks, we are going to be turning down our submasters and that drums crush so that this is -7. So let's hear the whole thing front to back with the knowledge that the drums are going to be a little bit too loud in the mix. It'll be fine. And then we will adjust that, and then we'll probably need to say our goodbyes. So let's check it out. think that's pretty good. Obviously, the drums were quite loud in the mix, and we are peaking up to 4.1, so we could have just turned it down, but, there's no way to know until we look. So we're going to turn everything down 3 decibels. That'll stick us at -7 over there on our drum master, which is exactly where we want to be. There are a couple of things I think I want to target and figure out as we go on. And it's a lot of that cymbal bleed. We're suddenly having real loud cymbals jump out a lot of times when there are fills, things that we weren't noticing until we started affecting the stuff this way, where cymbal bleed that had gotten literally cut out of the snare track or out of the tom tracks. There's just enough cymbal there now that the effects we've applied since are causing those to jump out. And obviously that's not good. We don't want that in there. So I might do that part off stream because it's hard telling where those are happening or how exactly we need to fix that. Also, I noticed that our kick and snare master is now peaking above -7 just on its own. However, none of these channels individually are. So this is probably a spot during a double bass run where there's a snare hit and a bass drum hit at the same time, and the combination of the two caused a small peak. So we'll put a little... must be raining outside. I think it's leaking. We'll put a compressor probably on that channel. All of this stuff in the next stream. Again, not 100% sure when the next stream will be. I didn't even think we were going to have one today. So much stuff going on, but I'm excited about this. I'm ready to do it. I want to get it finished. So maybe there will be a stream tomorrow. I'm not sure what kind of free time I'm going to have. Not going to guarantee there will be, but fingers crossed, maybe there will. If not, then sometime next week we will definitely get continuing on this. All right. So let's go ahead and head out of here. Once again, thank you all. For anybody who is watching right now, anybody who watched even a little bit of this, anybody who's watching this later when it's not live, I really appreciate your time and hope you found some of this interesting, maybe slightly educational, at least as well as I can educate somebody to do this sort of stuff. And we will see you guys later.